Hi. Would you do me a favor and like and subscribe and tell a friend or an enemy? This podcast is about enemies, really? That'd be great. Hope you enjoy this week's episode. Hello, it's me, Julie Kim. Welcome to Bothered, my little podcast about being bothered. Every week I share short stories.
Living like this, I might lose it.
They're mostly real situations that have happened to me. You wouldn't believe some of them. Or maybe you would. Maybe you can relate.
Living like this, I might lose it.
As you may know, I'm a traveling stand-up comedian and a mother. I have a small school-age child, and on a lot of my trips for stand-up comedy, I bring my husband and child because it's fun to travel together, and also I would like my family to stay together and we want some life experiences. And you know what they say, a family that supports the mom in her stand-up comedy career stays together. You haven't heard that? I think I just made that up. My child is also at a stage where she can miss a little bit of school. I mean, could she be a better reader? Yeah, absolutely. But does she know a lot about the world and roads and traveling and airplane etiquette? Yeah, she does. And I think that's going to benefit her a little later on. Am I don't know, projecting some regret or guilt back to myself and compensating and rationalizing my weird decisions for this strange lifestyle that we have? Maybe, okay? I can judge myself. You can't. Fuck you. Sorry. Anyways, we were out of town on a school day. The three of us, my husband, daughter, and I was doing some press for some upcoming comedy shows. We were supposed to let the school know of any unplanned absences. This is normal protocol. There's a dedicated number and an email address. They make it easy for us, and still we failed. Do I feel bad about this? Yes, absolutely. The reason could be very simple. The child might be sick and somebody forgot to notify the school. In the worst case scenario, the child got lost or injured or was abducted, probably by a man, before making it to class, and the child is basically missing. In this case, sound every fucking alarm. It's a big fucking deal. Shit has gone down. In our case, the primary contact is my husband. On that day when my child didn't show up to school, they called me, not the primary contact. I am always listed as the secondary contact because I'm normally working and out of town or out of the country. I was not available to pick up the phone when called by the school because I was being interviewed at that time for a spot on a national television show. My husband is the primary contact for a reason. I noticed the call an hour after it came in, and by that time, if there was a kidnapping, the kidnapper and my child would have been pretty far away, and it would have been a giant ordeal. What followed was a giant waste of time, energy, and frustration. My first assumption could have been that the school rightfully called my husband first and they couldn't reach him because he was with the child in a different city, and then they chose to reach me. That would be the best scenario. But something in me guessed that no, they didn't contact my husband, and that someone was willingly wasting a woman's time. Also, and maybe this is my fault for doing this, but I thought it would be easier to email the school than to take two steps, which is one, to tell my husband about the message, and two, have him call the school. So instead, I emailed the admin person and I said, "Hi, I'm so sorry for not letting you know. We do have our child out of town. Also," and let me read the email right here. I said, "Hi, sorry for the late notice, but yes, we're out of town and my daughter won't come in to school this week. I noticed I did not say in the email. I noticed a missed call from you. Could you please confirm," this is me being a shit disturber, "could you please confirm that my husband is the first point of contact? He should normally be the first person that you call." The school writes back, "Yes, he is our first point of contact." I am reading this word for word, by the way. "Yes, he is our first point of contact. However, for absences, we typically call the mother first, and I forgot to call your husband afterwards." We have to add some sound effects or something in post because I don't want to yell into the microphone, or I don't want to shock our listeners by the actual sound and pitch of the real scream that I wanted to scream at that moment. And still now, this story does not get old. My frustration does not get old. I am so angry even just thinking about this. Anyways, I will finish the thread before I share some more of my rage-filled reactions with you. I wrote back and I said, "Hi, Please do not typically call the mother first for us, smiley face first. And may I say, I don't even think that smiley face was passive aggressive. It was like a smile with teeth. Like, I'm fucking so annoyed. We typically call the mother first and then forgot to call the husband. Anyways, I wrote back again because I am that kind of crazy. I said, please definitely call both parents here if our daughter has not arrived to school. If you cannot get through to the first parent, not getting me, the secondary contact, on the phone to explain an absence and then not at all calling the primary contact leaves a big gap and risk to our daughter's safety. Oh, I forgot that I did this. I copied the principal. I'm copying, enter the name Mr. or Mrs. Principal. Again, I'm protecting my privacy and that of the school. I'm copying the principal to request a review of process here because I know you're just following guidelines. Can we hear back from you, please? Calling the mother for absences when the father is listed as the primary contact is surprising and definitely is not better in our case. I never got a response. So what went AWOL here? Our instructions, our intentional instructions about who to contact first in case of an emergency. They just contacted me just because, and they cited nothing. For absences, we typically contact the mother. They didn't say if this was according to any formal or informal guidelines. They just said what they typically do. Well, guess what? I typically work a lot more than my husband. I typically like when people respect what we have requested in terms of a chain of communication for something as serious as a missing child at school. By the way, I'm really angry now. I did not direct any of this anger at the school. The school people were very nice and certainly not intentionally wasting my time or being disrespectful, but fuck, is this really what we're doing in the year 2025? I left it as far as the school goes. I don't want to get caught in this. I'm not the superhero at school for women's rights or equality or anything like that, but it was enough of a fucking problem that I sent one email after the other and didn't get a response for either. I really wonder if this is actually the protocol from the school, whether it's written down or not. A child is missing and you go straight to the secondary contact because that is the mother. That I honestly don't understand. I would love to see if this is actually documented, or even if there's some email saying, forget what the actual policy says, but definitely contact the mother first because it is better to inconvenience the mother, even though she's busy and out of town or out of the country and actually doesn't know anything about what's going on back in town. What would that policy be? Please do not bother the father because he is busy and important. Please contact only the mother, even if she's not indicated as the primary contact or even as a contact at all. But find her, please. Search for her. If you don't have her information, search for her on Instagram or the internet somewhere, maybe LinkedIn. Get the police to go to her job and handcuff her and bring her to the school. Make her walk the walk of shame through a tunnel of reporters and mother-in-laws wagging their fingers, shouting about how she's lucky to even have a husband who does anything at all. Even if the mother doesn't have custody for some reason, or even if she's dead, she is responsible because she's the mother. And if you cannot find her, find the next of kin that is a female. It has to be a female. Nobody with a dick is allowed to be bothered at any slight inconvenience during the day when it comes to the child. Holy fuck. Was that too much? That was too much. There was an actual field for the primary contact and the secondary contact, and we filled it out, for fuck's sakes. They knowingly disregarded the information we provided for good reason and just contacted me. They bothered me. I'm not saying at all that my child is a bother. I spend many intentional hours and moments with my daughter, and I take pictures and videos so she will remember and take care of me when I'm old. No, I'm partially kidding there, but I do want her to have good memories of us. And so, of course, I delete the bad videos and photos and only keep the good ones. And I hope she never listens to this podcast. You know what? This is probably partially my fault too. I have primary contact vibes. My husband does most of the drop-offs, almost every morning drop-off and pick-up. I'm seen at the school once every 2 months. But when my husband is there, he avoids eye contact and conversations as if they will make him die. And I hate this, but I'm the one that actually talks to other parents. I'm the one that sends emails sometimes when something is wrong with my kid or we were missing some sort of instructions and shit like that. I mean, that's primary contact behavior. But still, on paper, I'm the secondary contact, and they know that. Like most moms, I take on most of the mental load. Not because anyone's forcing us, but because it's easier, and I actually get shit done properly and easily, and I have to stop this. Part of this is my fault. This is an actual recent conversation I had with my husband in February when we were trying to figure out summer camps. February, yes, that's how early it starts. I was like, hey, do you think she'll want to do bike riding camp or an arts camp? And he was like, what, camp? What? And in that time, I booked the summer camp. End of scene. This shit happens all the time. I'm going to stop having primary contact vibes, maybe, but I want good things for my child. And it's not to say that my husband doesn't also do things. He, of course, does a lot of things. He's the only one that sits down and does workbooks and homework with the child and does most of the reading with the child. But I have had emails from teachers sent to only me with my husband not even copied, even though he's the one they see most of the time. This is not the time to remind me that some people are single moms, okay? Forget the whataboutism or the flipping of the narrative and making the issue a totally different issue. I get some people are single moms and dads, and pointing out that some women like me have it, better because, we're lucky for having even a hope of relying on another partner as an equal partner is not the fucking thing, okay? And that kind of thinking is the problem in the first place, all right? And let me tell you another story. This happened actually fairly recently. We were in Whistler, BC. My kid goes to a ski camp because we are Vancouver people, okay? And that's all I need to say about that. She was in ski camp. My husband made the booking for the lessons with her and put himself down as the primary contact. And around 2:00, I get a phone call, and it's from the ski school. I will not name them, but if you're resourceful at all, you will know who they are. I am called by the ski school, and of course I pick it up because I know that something must be wrong if they're calling before the ski camp is over. My husband happened to be right beside me, and I put it on speakerphone. And they said, oh, your daughter has been injured, and we're going to take her to the clinic. Would you like to meet her there? And after inquiring that my child was, okay and mostly safe, which she was, I had a look in my eye, and my husband knew what that meant. And he looked at me with this desperate look of like, please don't make something out of this. But of course I said, I just want to check, do you have my husband down as the primary contact? And of course he shook his head and he was embarrassed for us that I even was doing this. But of course, this is what I do, okay? I lean into a cringy moment and I need to know, and I will not let it go. And the lady on the other line said, oh yes, your husband is listed as the primary parent, but normally we call the mothers. Why is it your policy to call the mother? And she said, well, normally the mothers respond faster. And at that point, I kind of chuckled because, yeah, moms get shit done, even if we're not down as a primary contact. And I was about to say, oh, yeah, well, we are better at communicating, aren't we? But before I can say that, she went in with the dads are often working or out of town. What the actual fucking fuck? And this is where my husband actually hit his face. I stopped. Not because he asked me to with his embarrassment, but because I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere with this woman, and I got to the bottom of it. She actually had the perception that fathers were not to be bothered, even if they were listed as the primary contact, because they were usually working or out of town. Never mind the fact that my husband is the only one besides my child who actually has a Whistler ski pass. He's the one that signed her up for the lesson, and he's there as the primary contact. For fucking God's sake. I do want to mention a fairly famous anecdote from Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a much more famous and harder working feminist and working mother. She often is cited for this story where she talks about her son, James, who was, by the school standards, a troublemaker, but she just called him, quote, lively, end quote, which I really, really love. She said, and this is a quote, I would get called by the head of the school psychologist, or the room teacher to come down immediately to hear about my son's latest escapade. Well, one day, I think I'd been up all night and writing a brief. I was at my office at Columbia Law School. I got the call and I responded,
this child has two parents.
Please alternate calls. She goes on to say that after that point, there were much fewer calls about the son. In fact, the school only would call once a semester after that, and she believed this was because, quote, they had to think long and hard before asking a man to take time out of his workday to come to the school. And this was in the 1960s, everybody. Yes, 1960s. And years later, and this is like 60 years later, this shit is still happening. She would roll over in her grave, I say. What am I going to do about this? I don't know. I'm going to fuck with the system from now on. I'm going to change my voicemail message to say, hey, if this is the school or any other child-related program, please refer back to your records and the fact that my husband is the primary contact, and read a book for God's sakes, and please become an ally. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I will just have my voicemail message be the original recording of Ruth Bader Ginsburg saying, this child has two parents. What do I say in conclusion? I was going to keep this short. I mean, I don't know. I expect better from us. And again, this is not to say that people can't make their own decisions. Other families have the mother as the primary point of contact. We still have many women who are stay-at-home mothers. Good for them. This is not about the decision to do that. This is about my right to be the secondary fucking contact. So I ask anybody who has us down, please contact him first. I guarantee you he will answer at some point, and he will do something about it. Do not bother me. Lose my fucking number unless he doesn't reply, and then find my number and then call me, please. Thank you.
This child has two parents.
Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you want, check out the blog version, juliekimcomedy.com/podcast. I also want to hear from you. Write in with your reactions and stories. I'd love to include them. bothered@juliekimcomedy.com. I am still on tour. Coming up, I've got Montreal, Halifax. That's this week in March. April, I'll be in San Francisco. And in May, Victoria, BC, Calgary, Alberta, and Vancouver, British Columbia. It's going to be great. I'm going to add more dates too, so tell me where to come that is safe, where I can go and not get my visa revoked and get in trouble by any country. Not talking about anybody in particular. Anyways, please like and subscribe and share.
Living like this, I might lose it. Living like this, I might lose it.